But the reason the game was lost is not entirely because Kemba Walker was brutal again. But the headline of this game is Kemba Walker was brutal again. And this is if you're looking at, okay, wins and losses are going to come and you're not going to overreact to every time that a team that they don't play well. Well, one, you can because they've lost 8 of their last 12 now, so it's getting a little bit concerning. Two, the defense, as you mentioned, was bad. But again, the headline is and continues to be Kemba looks terrible. I mean, terrible, bordering on liability at this point. And I know everyone's inclination is to continue to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's Kemba Walker.
Well, John, define terrible. Are you saying mechanically the way he's moving, or just in general? He's
useless at this point.
I disagree with
that.
He's
a scorer who can't score.
Or is he rusty? There's a difference, John.
I know that, but look, Rust is fine 10 games in. We're talking about he's had 3 of the worst shooting performances of his career in the last 4 or 5 games. Okay. And it could be a slump and it could turn around. And if the ball starts going in the bucket, nobody's going to make an issue of it. But the ball's not going in the bucket. And as we mentioned, he's really only able to hit from range at this point, and he's off, and he's missing open looks too. So right now, he's a mess. It doesn't mean he's going to be this way forever, but he is a mess right now. And that's the worrisome thing is, and again, I think people, again, confuse you can be worried now because you just want to see him return to form. And when he does, it wasn't an overreaction to be worried. You're worried because you want to see it. You want to see a stretch of games where all of a sudden he does look better and it's not as big an issue. We're just not seeing it now. And again, is this game 10 for him coming back?
11.
11.
Yeah.
So it's a legit concern at this point. You want to not see this many really crap performances from him.
So I don't know if Joe Sway's going to agree with this or not, but I was thinking throughout the course of this game, yes, you're right. When you miss that many shots, if you're Kemba Walker, you're throwing away that many possessions in a close game where it's going to come back to hurt you in the end. But I still look at all these other things Kemba does, and if I'm going to rip them off tonight that I was keeping track of specifically, 0 turnovers, ball control, only 6 turnovers at one point.
7
I think they finished with
playing
8
defense. Yeah.
Yep, nice pick and roll passes, finds teammates, gets Brown going. Positionally defense, I think he's there. I always think he's in the right place on the defensive end of the court. So over a replacement level point guard, there are a million different things he's still doing right now. He's not useless, John. That's what I'm going to hit back on there. Is he a liability right now? I think you could start to maybe argue that with how poor offensively he's been and how much a defense could leave him.
I mean, that's semantics, Bobby. Useless and liability. He's not useless, but he's a liability. That's a definition of useless, meaning right now he's barely. I mean, he's not even replacement level. So
are you concerned about his shooting long term? Because I'm not.
I'm concerned that whatever it is that made him a dynamic offensive player, he's not able to find it again. And I know everyone says he looks like he's moving physically. I know he mentioned that he's having a little tougher time stopping. And that's a big part of his game,
Balance at the rim, yeah.
And so that's a big thing. And now he's morphed that concern. He himself has said it's a confidence issue. And I don't know whether it's just he's lost confidence because he's declined some and he knows it, and now he has less confidence in his ability to do the things he has, or if confidence is the issue. But I believe he's lost confidence because he's going out there and it's just not working, and he's not sure why. It's almost like a golf swing for him.
Yeah, the things he relies on aren't there.
Whatever you're used to doing, he can't do on a regular basis right now, and he's a mess as a result. That's what I mean.
I'm with you on the finishing. I think his shot's going to come back. Now, I rattled off all those things, Joe Sway. Where are you on that?
Because what game was it a couple games ago? Golden State?
The Clippers one was the good one. The Golden State one was okay, and then
Clippers
the Kings one was a disaster.
Okay.
The Kings he didn't play. The Warriors was okay. The Clippers one was good. So overall on this trip, you're talking about a really good game from him against that Clippers. That one mattered because you see that he's capable of doing that. Now, on the whole, the bigger sample size right now has been the bad play from him. But this is what we expected. I mean, did anyone expect him to come back hammering, looking like his old all-star self?
I expected
the forward things.
Something between this and what he's doing.
Well, we've seen the between point.
I expected something between this and all-star level, somewhere in the middle, not this end of the spectrum. This is very, very poor.
But you didn't think 10 games that it would take around 10 games for him to get
no, God, I mean, how many people take 10 games? I mean, yeah, look, you can make that argument about the entire team. They've played.
Well, obviously, John, you look at the schedule,
20.
I mean, the teams that he was supposed to go off on, he had a pretty good performance, or at least a couple of those. But you look at the other tougher teams, which, of course, I think is a point that we missed out on the last time we were all here, is – DeAndre Ayton, Rudy Gobert. These are guys that are, obviously he's an all-star point guard caliber point guard, right? He can get to the rim. He can get there. The torque is there. That was my concern, that his knee was going to be, that was going to bother him. But it's not the case, John. It's just more mental. And I think if that's the overall problem that Kemba's dealing with here, then you're in good shape here. It's just about getting out the rust.
Like I said, we can keep making that rust thing for how long? I don't know. I don't know how much longer. I mean, fine, another 10 games. At what point do you press a legit panic button? And again, I'm not panicked.
I still think you should do it against the best team in the league.
I still think it's possible he turns it around, but every single game he goes out and doesn't, it's impossible to not look at it and say, okay. And again, the concerning thing here, Josue, is I'd be less worried. I mean, the fact that he's moving well, or it looks like he's moving well, and he can't buy a bucket. How do you explain that? I mean, shoot or shoot. It doesn't take you 10 games to get your stroke back. It usually takes you 10 games to get your legs back or to get into game shape if you hadn't been working out. But I mean, he spent a whole offseason building up to be able to come back and play. They managed his minutes, bringing him back.
Yeah, but John, Kemba Walker's never been a 46% three-point shooter or someone that can, who shot at a high clip from behind the arc. He depends on that to get to the rim. So obviously this is a concern when you don't see him converting these layups. But again, I just think the way he's coming off the dribble, the way he's crossing up people, I mean, he looks good. I think that's an encouraging sign. I think you run with that for, let's say, at least another week. All right. I mean, no West Coast road trip here. No traveling. Yeah, the schedule doesn't get much easier, but at least you're back at home and you have those reps underneath your belt now.
Last season,
what do you do, John?
38 from three. And really over the last 4 years, he's about a 38.
I mean, what, 41, 42%? I mean, that's where he sits, when he's at his best from behind the arc.
Right. He's really just south of 40. Right now he's at 30. The problem is everything else where he's shooting 35% from the field total and he can't buy a bucket anywhere close.
I heard a couple different numbers. I think B-Rob was, 17 straight from two without a make, and then I think Brandy was saying 15.
Yeah.
So it's been a disaster
with that layup.
It's been a disaster in there, and that's where I'm concerned because we've seen a gradual dip over a long period of time in that range.
4 of 20. Then the good game against the Clippers. So it's 2 of 12 in this game, 4 of 20 against Phoenix. 9 of 19. He had the decent game against the Clippers where they needed that game. That was his best game.
That was his best game. Yeah.
6 of 18 versus Golden State. Again, a real crappy shooting. 1 of 12, 6 of 15. I mean, he is just the last X amount of games. He is really, really, really struggling.
Yeah. And this was a tough matchup here because he can't imprint his pace on the game. I think he controlled the ball well. The Jazz don't hunt turnovers that much. I think they're 30th in forcing turnovers. So it was an easier game from that aspect and be in control as an offense. But they're setting themselves. They're hoping. They have the rim protection there. So, again, where have we seen him struggle the most these last 2 games? Against DeAndre Ayton, against Rudy Gobert, guys that are going to swallow, never mind him, even the best of finishers up inside. And we saw that with Tatum in this game too, struggling immensely. So this is a tough defense to command against. But the question here is, what do you want? I mean, there's people in the chat saying trade him. That's obviously not on the table.
Untradeable.
Could you play him less? Could you get away from him in the crunch time? I think we've agreed that that's not the answer. You want him to be out there and work through the stuff.
You just got to wait him out.
You see Pritchard too in this one. Not the usual Pritchard we've seen. He too had struggled putting his imprint on this game and only got 15 minutes, but I didn't think he was all that effective either. So you are where you are with this team. None of us love Teague. That's not a bailout option at this point. So you just roll with Kemba. and hope it gets better. And I'm not saying there's no concern here, but it's still early. If we were talking 10 games into a season and the Celtics were, 6-4 or 5-5, we wouldn't be saying freak out about the team. So 10 to 11 games in the Kemba, even though it's more like, I don't know, 2-8 or 3-7 right now when we think of good games versus bad games, I'm still not freaking out with him on the whole. And they've been able to get some wins with him out there. That Clippers one especially stands out to me as what they can pick out of it.
3-7 with Kemba.
Yeah. So yeah, 3-7. It's concerning. It's veering toward the panic meter.
Yeah.
Your side of the panic meter, but I'm not freaking out yet. These were tough teams. These are some of the best teams in the NBA that they've run into over the last 6. So let's see what happens when the schedule softens up.
We either talk about Kemba or you talk about firing Brad Stevens. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Well, you mentioned Jeff Teague. I love how Jeff got the old. You have 2 minutes to make a 3-pointer, or I'm pulling you.
Yeah.
And he went up and down the floor for 3 minutes, then shot, and we didn't see him for the rest of the night. That's the kind of treatment I want Jeff Teague. I want to see him in the doghouse more often.
That was fan service right there.
You're up against the best team in the NBA. You're playing the way you're playing. No, I don't care how many years in this league you have under your belt. Yeah, take a seat. We'll see you in Boston.
Service.
We'll see you in Boston, Jeff.
He still had the best plus minus on the team. He did. In his 3 minutes, he's the only one in plus territory.
I saw that one while I was tracking the box score, and I knew you were going to bring that up.